With the release of Shadow of the Erdtree, we were given a lot of quest lines. Perhaps one of the most important of them is Ymir's quest line, a quest line dealing with our creation and providing very interesting implications. Yet I believe this quest was misunderstood by many people, which is really bad for the well-being of the lore community. The biggest misconceptions is regarding a new character, Metyr, the Mother of Fingers. Metyr and Ymir questline have been discussed in a couple of great lore videos, so in this video we will not talk about it in the same manner. Instead, we will try to put new information with the old facts so we can clear some of the confusion. Specifically, we will talk about the Greater Will abandoning the lands between and the damage caused to Metyr. Did the damage actually sever the connection to the Greater Will, or is the two events disconnected? Is Ymir actually reliable? Who did this damage to Metyr? Who attacked the Mother of Fingers? And when did the Greater Will abandon the lands between? What is the relation between Metyr and the Elden Beast? Let me explain. During Ymir questline, he tells us that Marika and the fingers that guided her were unhinged from the start. But in matter of fact, the truth lies deeper. It's their mother who is unhinged from the start. Metyr, the Mother of Fingers. This is what Ymir tells us, but after completing the entire quest and defeating Metyr, you will find that this isn't the entire truth. Metyr wasn't unhinged from the start. The Staff of the Great Beyond tells us that she indeed used to communicate with the Greater Will, unlike what Ymir tells us. This item reads as follows. The Mother received signs from the Greater Will from the beyond of the microcosm. Despite being abandoned and broken, she kept waiting for another message to come. So Ymir wasn't speaking the full truth. Yes, Metyr is abandoned and broken, yet she wasn't like that from the start. So the real question now is, when did she get damaged and abandoned? I believe those two events are actually separate. The Greater Will remained in the scene way after the arrival of Metyr. We know that for a fact. The final boss of Elden Ring is the Elden Beast, the vassal beast of the Greater Will and the living incarnation of the concept of order, who later became the Elden Ring itself. From Metyr Remembrance, we can read she was actually the first star to be sent to the lands between. And from the Elden Star's incantation, we can read that, like Metyr, the Elden Beast was a star sent to the lands between as well. Putting those two facts together, we can come to the conclusion that the Elden Beast was sent after Metyr. Therefore, the Greater Will was still active at that time. Another clue of the Greater Will involvement is the banishment of the Nox. We can learn from the Nox armor that they invoked the ire of the Greater Will, and for that they were banished deep underground. The Greater Will sent a third star, but this time this star was a malformed one, a beast of destructive force. Astel crashed into the eternal city of the Nox, which caused it to sink under the capital and stole their sky. Their sky, which was the center of their worship. But what did the Nox do exactly to invoke such wrath from the Greater Will? Before the DLC was speculated, but now I believe we were given the answer. They attacked Metyr. In the base game, we can acquire an incredibly important item for Ranni, the Finger Slayer blade. Ranni used the blade to kill her two fingers. The blade can harm the Greater Will and its vassals. We can read here, this blood-drenched fetish is proof of the high treason committed by the Eternal City and symbolizes its downfall. Cannot be wielded by those without a faith, but it is said to be able to harm the Greater Will and its vassals. Being the proof of the high treason committed by the Nox means that it's connected to what they did to invoke the wrath of the Greater Will. They wanted to stop the influence of the Greater Will on the lands between, so they can replace him with their Lord of Night. So they made that weapon to attack the two fingers, or that is what we saw. After learning of Metyr, I asked myself a question. If I wanted to harm the fingers, wouldn't it be more effective to attack Metyr herself? I mean, even if I killed as much fingers as I wanted, Metyr would still just give birth to more. So the most logical action for the Nox would be to attack Metyr herself with the blade. And indeed, when we find Metyr, she is heavily wounded where her womb is. We can even see her giving birth to more finger creepers from that place during our fight. So here what I think happened. Metyr was attacked by the Nox. She got wounded, but she used her teleportation to get away. The Greater Will knew of the attack and got incredibly angry of the attack on his gleaming daughter. So he destroyed the Nox, but unfortunately, the harm was already done. I believe after this point, Metyr was only able to produce unripe children, as Ymir stated, and therefore she was broken. Now for the abandoned part, I don't believe she was abandoned yet, mainly because we were told exactly when did the Greater Will abandon the lands between.
The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the Greater Will.
If you are familiar with other FromSoft titles, you would know that the intro cinematic is always reliable. It's not affected by personal opinions or the lack of knowledge. It basically tells us the state of the world we are in. So the Greater Will only abandoned the lands between due to the actions of the demigods during the Shattering War. I believe this is exactly the point of time where Metyr was abandoned. After that moment, any communication between Metyr or her two fingers and the Greater Will was severed. The two fingers were basically telling us the last message they received. Kill the demigods deemed unworthy by the Greater Will and mend the Elden Ring. But when new information came to them, they simply didn't know what to do. I am talking about burning the Erdtree. Radagon sealed the entrance, and seeking audience with Queen Marika was impossible. They simply weren't told what to do, so they genuinely tried to communicate with the Greater Will. They weren't faking it. They were simply trying to talk to the boss who already left. Like their mother, they kept waiting until they received another message telling them what to do. And this is the biggest difference between the fingers and the Elden Beast. As we already established, the Elden Beast was sent after Metyr as a superior being with a different job title. The Elden Beast was the Elden Ring itself and the living incarnation of order. A very subtle but huge difference between Metyr and the Elden Beast is their fingers. Fitting, right? The Elden Beast has 5 fingers, while Metyr has only 4. At first, it may seem like nothing, but in matter of fact, it's incredibly important. In the base game, we can find a dagger called Cinqueda. The dagger description reads as follows. The design celebrates a beast's 5 fingers, symbolic of the intelligence once granted upon their kind. We can learn from the description that the 5 fingers represent intelligence. I believe this is the biggest difference between the Elden Beast and Metyr. The Elden Beast is intelligent. He can make decisions on his own according to the rules set by the Greater Will. Unlike Metyr, who can only wait for clear instructions from the Greater Will. This may explain why the Elden Beast took the decision to punish Marika for shattering the Elden Ring, yet not killing her as she remains a god in truth, according to Enya. This also explains why the Elden Beast attacks us after we defeat Radagon. I believe most people get this part wrong. The Elden Beast doesn't actually care about the Golden Order. Like the Greater Will, he just wants order. I also believe the Elden Beast isn't dead. It's a part of him to defend the Elden Ring. That's why he starts the fight with us. You must defeat the Elden Beast to prove you are worthy of becoming the Elden Lord. As Godfrey said, a crown is warranted by strength. So the Elden Beast stands to us, and if we can defeat him, then he reverts back to the Elden Ring and you are worthy of obtaining the ring. Now for the final question, why did Ymir lie to us about Metyr being unhinged from the very start? This is easily explained from his backstory. Ymir is delusional. He wants to become the Mother of Fingers instead of Metyr. His backstory is a rather tragic one. Behind the cathedral of Manus Metyr, we can find a graveyard. We can interact with one of the tombs to receive a message. Yuri, beloved child, taken before his time. Yuri is Ymir's son. He died in a young age. During our first encounter with Ymir, he tells us at the end to mind our feet around the church, as we wouldn't want to hurt the little boy. But what little boy? His child is dead. After sounding the first bell and going back to him, we can find him holding a little finger creeper in his arms. This must be the little boy he was talking about. Losing his little boy broke his mind. He was trying to rebirth him. After that encounter, we can find him standing in front of the grave saying the following:
Forgive me, I failed you. Failed to birth you whole. I was not ready to be your mother, but I can still stay here. Nice and close. For now, my dear. Sleep soundly.
It's clear now what's going on. He failed to bring back his child and ended up with that finger creeper. But in his mind he can do it properly, only if he can replace Metyr as the Mother of Fingers. That's why he lied to us to push us to kill Metyr for him. Then after the task is done, he attacks us alongside his knight. His dialogue gives even more context.
My shining star, grant me a mother's strength. Look here, at my fingers. I will be the true mother. And I will be the only mother.
The backstory of Ymir is a rather tragic one, yet it doesn't justify his lies. The lies that caused a lot of confusion in the lore community. Hopefully we cleared some of that. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button and tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Until next video, farewell, fellow Tarnished.